Manor. Visit Manor Entertainment's official website and social media. Our official website is manorhq.com. Follow us on Twitter at officialmanor. We're on Instagram at Manor Entertainment. And our YouTube channel is listed under Manor Entertainment, where you'll find many of our features currently playing. Again, visit our website, manorhq.com. Follow us on Twitter at officialmanor. Follow us on Instagram at Manor Entertainment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel listed under Manor Entertainment. As always, share with others and spread the word. Have you subscribed to Manor Post? Receive the latest news and updates when Manor Entertainment's weekly newsletter is delivered to your email every Saturday. A subscription is free and takes less than 30 seconds to sign up. Go to manorhq.com and fill out the form on the homepage. Join the rapid growing list of Manor Post subscribers by requesting your weekly delivery today. Sign up at manorhq.com. That's manorhq.com. So you have something to sell in the horror genre market. Maybe it's your novel, or maybe it's your artwork, or maybe it's your podcast. Whatever horror genre product or service you have, you can reach your target audience by becoming a Manor Entertainment sponsor. It's both easy and affordable. The current rates are the lowest they'll ever be, but they won't remain that low forever. Get started today by sending an email to contact@manorhq.com for more information. Become a Manor Entertainment sponsor today. Email contact@manorhq.com.
Warning. The following program may contain violence, explicit language, sexual situations, and dark content, unsuitable for some listeners. It is intended for mature audiences only. Discretion is advised.
Presented in cinematic audio.
Should old acquaintance be forgot?
Said the boy, shackled to the long table in the middle of the chamber. Martin suppressed a shiver and kept his face turned towards the barred window, his grip tightening on the sill. The voice was deep, far too deep for a 13-year-old, even accounting for an early puberty, and his tone was laced with cocky amusement. The echoes of Big Ben's 12th and final peal were fading. In the streets beyond the prison, ardent revelers roared. From the second-story window, the people and carriages still looked close enough to touch. Martin wished he were down there, traveling with them as they hurried along Newgate Street, toward St. Paul's, where a new set of bells began their salute to the new year. He wished he were anywhere but here. He pulled a kerchief from his trousers to wipe at the gritty dampness on his palms. Newgate Prison's condemned room struck him as a civilized cesspit. Beautifully fitted stone walls and floors, broad arched windows that would let in a lot of daylight, and a creeping dankness that gnawed at one's bones. There was no fire in the room. Normally, he wouldn't still be wearing overcoat and scarf indoors, but the room was as cold as a witch's kiss. The guards had been wise enough to retreat to their heated tea room, leaving him alone with the boy. Martin didn't know how Tommy Anson wasn't shivering uncontrollably in his faded American sack coat and the rags he wore beneath it. He stole a glance over his shoulder. The boy wasn't shivering at all. His complexion was ruddy below his wet rat hair. His breath appeared in cotton wool clouds before him, but his breathing was perfectly relaxed. Unused to conscious or even living subjects, Martin faced the window and contemplated his next steps. Replacing the kerchief, his knuckles brushed the locket and he pulled it out. His body blocked the movement from the boy's view. Touching this circle of gold, stroking it, looking inside, he knew these actions to be a habit, some conspiracy of brain and body to calm his mood and focus his thinking. A healthy habit, he thought. Useful. He teased the locket open. Photographs bleached the life from most women's faces. Not Alice. Her life beamed out at him, its vibrancy all the starker for his sordid surrounds.
Home. I should be home, celebrating with Alice. I should be conversing with my wife, holding my wife. Instead, I'm here with this...
Happy New Year.
Martin took a deep breath. Tommy Anson's comment was civil. Martin doubted Scotland Yard and the prison staff had been very polite to the boy. Perhaps civility would coax him into revealing some detail about his peculiar madness.
1900. More than a new year, a new century.
Actually, no. It's the end of a century, just as the year 100 was the end of the first century. 1901 will be the start of the new.
Now how could you possibly know that? A gutter rat who has never darkened the doors of a school in his life.
Martin turned then, allowing his eyes to flick across Tommy's face before resting his gaze on the wall behind. Staring directly at the boy was difficult, unsettling. Something in the set of his jaw, eyes, brow, shoulders, in the way his fingers never stilled, twitching and scratching at the tabletop while the rest of him sat as still as stone.
No, it's not the boy's posture. It's what he's done.
Tommy seemed so normal to all appearances. No overhanging brow, no ponderous lower lip, no hunched shoulders. He was a handsome enough child, normal, and yet. The Royal College of Surgeons wanted Martin to determine the manner of Tommy Anson's brain malformation, assuming a brain specialist could ascertain the reason for such aberrant and abhorrent behavior. Henry Randall had written him.
Just find out what you can. I know it's short notice, old man, but this is our final chance to speak with the subject. It's a wonder they have allowed us this opportunity, with all their stalling since the murder. You'll have an hour or so. Do what you can, and meet me in my room for a brandy afterwards.
If he weren't so young, he could be the Ripper himself.
And that was the rumor, of course. That Tommy was some kind of protege of Saucy Jack's. A dark disciple learning his craft at the elbow of the master who had preceded him by more than a decade. Ridiculous talk, of course. The notion of Tommy learning such butchery from the Ripper was pure balderdash, for the simple reason that he would have been an infant at the time. But, and how could he not think about this? The similarities were uncanny, frightening, and there was no doubt that the boy had committed the crime. After all, he was discovered at the scene in the act of removing the woman's organs. Martin pitied the poor Bobby who'd stumbled upon it. He had witnessed this horror in progress, while Martin had arrived later to assess the fait accompli. And yet 4 weeks after the event, the sights and smells from the night haunted Martin, robbed him of sleep, robbed him of virility. What if Alice bore him a son, and it turned out like this mad thing in front of him, warped internally, despite outward beauty? What if they had a daughter, and she was horrifically murdered by another sufferer of Anson's malaise? Something had to be done to avoid such horrors. Someone had to find an answer. A cure, even.
Why did they send you? Normally, they send a priest. In the old days, they'd send a cunning folk, or a torturer, or shaman. Are you a shaman?
He cocked his head, reminiscent of Alice's cocker spaniel. Martin drew himself up straight, forced his eyes to meet the boy's.
I'm a doctor sent by the Royal College of Surgeons. At this point, we need someone versed in the theories of Freud and Charcot, not a surgeon.
You're a doctor. Druitt was a doctor.
Druitt? Did he mean the Yard's favourite Ripper suspect?
Interesting. So, Doctor, do you think I'm sick?
The images flowed fresh. The woman gutted, her throat slashed, blood spattered around the alley like spilled paint, pooling between the cobbles. Her viscera exposed for all the world to see.
Stop!
He clenched his fists, willed the images away, and asked,
You think you're not?
Tommy's smile, the one that flowered each time Martin glanced his way, took on a curious edge.
What kind of sickness do you think I have?
I'm not sure. I am yet to diagnose you. They think you have some sickness of the mind, some twist in the physiology of the brain that made you, that inclines you to...
Physiology. This is new. This is interesting. We do damage the brain, certainly.
His gaze snapped back to Martin. Martin flinched, dropped his head.
Those eyes, so cold, so hungry, so knowing.
But you're thinking of it to be the cause and not the effect. How will you examine the brain? Will you drill the skull, or will you cut it away? Do you understand how the brain works? I would like to know that, surely I would. If you do it while Tommy's alive, could you show me? Could you use mirrors? No, I would surely love to see that.
Martin realized with a start that he had stopped breathing. He sucked in air, swallowed. He straightened his shoulders and began to pace.
You want to see inside the body, Tommy? I wonder why it is you are so intrigued in such a way.
Aren't you? Isn't that why you're here?
That's different.
I doubt that. We share the same fascination, you and us.
Us? If that's true, there will be a...
He almost said, a method in your madness.
a purpose. I have my purpose. What is yours? What happens to you when you think about the insides of a person's body? Do you experience headaches, blurring of the vision, feelings of excitement?
These questions are tedious, Martin. Perhaps if you bring me images, photographs of the brain, of your fine work, perhaps then I will be better disposed to answer your dreary questions.
How do you know my name? One of the guards mentioned it to you before I came. Those dolts.
Who needs a gossiping guard? I have my friends. Come on, Martin. This bores me. Tell me something interesting. Tell me more about physiology.
There was no way Martin was about to play the boy's demented game.
What friends?
Tell me about physiology!
Martin jumped back, looked toward the door. His neck and shoulders prickled, heart thumping at his ribs. When no warders entered, he wondered why they had left him alone with this maniac. Why they weren't checking in on him.
Relax, you fool, he's chained up.
He swallowed hard and forced his voice to stay level, the voice of authority. Condemned and crazed murderer or not, this boy needed to know his place.
I'm not here to tell you anything. You will answer my questions and help me understand...
Tommy slumped in his chair, dropped his head to the table, and began to bang it softly.
Help me understand why a 13-year-old lad would butcher a defenseless woman like that.
What makes you think Tommy's any different to the policeman who captured him? Or even you, yourself, Doctor?
We are nothing alike, my good lad.
We share the same curiosity. We're very much alike.
I do not go about mutilating young women.
But you'll mutilate Tommy, won't you?
That's called science.
And that makes it acceptable. Some people are allowed to play with other people's bodies. Others are not. Why isn't Tommy? Because he's poor. You rich people are so taken with yourselves, particularly you British. You assume you own the world, but you haven't owned anything since the beginning. You haven't understood anything since the beginning. This isn't your world.
Martin felt the anger and fright drain out of him, exhaustion prodding him toward leaving. The boy suffered from a form of dementia praecox, or perhaps paranoid delusion. There was no point in interviewing someone whose mind couldn't interpret reality correctly. He'd examine the brain in the morning, see if he could learn anything then. Worse than its pointlessness, conversing with Tommy Anson was dragging up the very memories of mutilation that Martin had been trying hard to forget. He hoped the boy's execution would spell an end to the whole sordid matter and signal a return to normality for Martin. And for Alice. Perhaps he could finally get this evil out of his mind, be once again attentive toward her. His fingertips dipped into his pocket and lightly stroked the cool metal of the locket, its curved casing. Alice was waiting for him, her skin cool, her body an Eden of graceful curves.
And that's exactly where I should be and what I should be thinking about on a night like this.
He gave the table a wide berth on his way to the door.
You're leaving, Martin, but I was enjoying talking with you. I guess you're off to be with your Alice. I hear she's very nice to look at. Very nice. Bright eyes, lean legs, fine curves.
Shut your filthy mouth, you animal!
Martin's hand, the one that had been reaching for the doorknob swung around to point at the back of Tommy's head. Then the full weight of Tommy's words registered. Something cold trickled along his spine.
He knows her too.
You're the animal, Martin, born to die and decay. This boy will die and decay, but I will live on. I will come back, and I'll be sure to visit you, Martin. You and Alice. Yes, indeed. I will enjoy seeing just what she is made of.
Before he knew it, Martin had crossed the room. He hit Tommy so hard across the back of the skull that the boy's head struck the table. He drew back, not sure what appalled him more, his own fit of rage, or Tommy's inexplicable knowledge. Tommy turned his head and spat out a tooth. Blood dribbled from one nostril and his lower lip.
In the name of God, I don't know how you know us, but shut up. Please just shut up.
In the name of God. I doubt you even know it.
Martin stumbled back to the window, feet dragging. He leant there, trembling, staring up at clouds underlit by gas lamps and celebratory bonfires. What was it about this boy, this evil boy, that had worked its way under his skin?
The whole affair is mad. This boy is mad, but he knows me. He knows Alice. It's not possible. Perhaps he met us somehow. You were a chimney sweep.
That had to be it. But there was no soot anywhere on the boy the night he'd been arrested. Just blood, feces, mucus.
I thought you wanted me to shut up.
How do you know us?
We saw you born. We watched your mother die to give you life. We watched your father raise you, teaching you to believe in the skills of your own hands and mind, rather than the religious fantasies of his dead wife. And we know Alice, too. Beautiful. So beautiful. You believe she only married you for your money, and not for your looks.
Goosebumps stood up along Martin's arms and neck. He'd only had that conversation once, sitting with Henry Randall by the older man's fire, maudlin from far too many brandies. For a moment, he couldn't speak. Tommy couldn't know these things. He simply couldn't.
Who are you?
Tommy used his chains to wipe blood from his nose. He ran his tongue along the metal link, cleaning away the red smear. The tongue withdrew behind a fresh smile.
We're the old ones. The past. And perhaps, Martin, now I've met you, I can be your future.
You're a...
But he couldn't say the word. A word that his father had banned from their home, along with other religious vocabulary. A word the College of Surgeons would have laughed at. A word that intimated there was more to reality than science could ascertain.
I will return for you, Martin. You interest me. We could work together, satisfy our curiosity together. It would be nice to use your skills to investigate the physiology of the brain by your hands. Tommy's were so clumsy, as were the last ones I owned. Let's just hope that brain isn't Alice's, eh?
In his mind's eye, Martin saw the eviscerated woman in that alley, but her face was Alice's. His vision cleared to find himself standing at the table, towering over Tommy.
Forget her. You bloody well forget her.
Well now, I might be persuaded, but as with all transactions, there would be a cost.
There followed a long moment where they held each other's gaze. Boots thudded in the hallway outside, followed by a clatter at the door. It opened to allow a quartet of prison officers to pile into the room.
Not yet.
Nice time with the monster?
The governor asked.
Bet you're looking forward to opening him up.
The warders laughed dutifully as they fussed about the boy, unchaining him from the table and rejoining his manacles behind his back.
Nice to know the world's a safer place with this garbage about to kiss his arse for well.
Safer.
Tommy giggled and winked at Martin.
Not for long, eh?
Now shut your gob.
The guard shoved Tommy through the doorway. In trying to turn toward Martin, he tripped and they had to hold him up until he regained his footing. Once more, they half-shoved, half-dragged him along the corridor, the governor and chaplain in their wake. Martin followed them, arms outstretched.
Wait, I need more time with him.
The governor placed himself in Martin's way and showed him the death notice.
Sorry, sir. As I told Dr. Randall, the hour of 1 is the time set for this hanging. Not 1 minute later. A private and quick action to put this nasty business behind us forever.
Forever. You really don't know the meaning of the word.
You're about to find out for us, aren't you, you little piece of... Begging your pardon, Chaplain. You'll be spending forever in the fires of hell, boy.
The boy will, yes. The boy will.
Martin followed at the governor's shoulder, rounded the corner and raised his voice toward Tommy's back.
The boy, but not you. What happens to you? Where do you go after Tommy's death?
The men in the execution party glanced back at him as if he, too, had lost his marbles. The chaplain frowned. Tommy twisted his head in an unnatural arc, vertebrae clicking and straining against the skin, his eyes bulging and trying to meet Martin's.
I'll find a new home.
London isn't your home.
Martin hurried to keep up, suddenly hopeful. Perhaps this thing would leave these parts. Perhaps he wouldn't have to worry. Tommy's head snapped forward as he nudged a warder with his shoulder.
These are home. Would you open your home to me, good sir?
The man flinched and pulled away. Martin came to a stop then, the flare of hope dispersing, evaporating.
Dear God, what can I do? What can I do?
The fear permeating his body was now so strong, he was struggling to keep himself upright. If only he could think of a way to prevent the execution, to have them lock Tommy Anson and this unholy thing in a dungeon for the next 50 years. He'd be safe. London would be safe. Alice would be safe. Tommy was almost at the corner of another corridor. Around it, Martin knew there lay a lockable door preceding the stairs down to the gallows. When that door closed behind the party, he would never see Tommy Anson alive again.
Governor, wait, please.
Martin cried out at the boy.
Tell me, what do you want? What do you want in exchange for guarantee of Alice's safety?
Resisting his captors for the first time, Tommy jerked hard against their hands. He turned back to Martin as the warders lost their grip, the two men swearing without concern for the chaplain's sensibilities. Before they yanked the boy around the corner and out of sight, Tommy formed 3 distinct words. They were too quiet for Martin to hear, but Tommy enunciated them so carefully that Martin could easily read them from the movement of his lips and tongue. The boy was gone. But those 3 words remained with Martin, seared into his mind, his thoughts.
Ask me later.
You've been listening to Manor House, Episode 30, Inhuman, presented in cinematic audio. Subscribe to this show and leave a rating, a review, and general feedback wherever you're receiving this program. Share with others on social media and at home. Your feedback, as well as sharing with others, helps grow and continue future productions. Credits. This episode was originally recorded and produced in 2016. Performances by David Alt as Martin, Morgan Montague as Tommy, Aiko as Harry, Rock Capuano as Governor, Christopher Ford as narrator. Story by Pete Alden. Directed, produced, edited, and scripted by Rock Capuano. Audio and sound design provided by EttalSFX. Music by Kogue and Lucas King. Theme song by Alan Postscript, based on The Shining by the Angelas. Cover art by Joseph Paines. Manor House was created by Rock Capuano. Manor House is a Manor Entertainment production. The story, all names, characters, and incidents portrayed in this production are fictitious. No identification with actual persons, living or deceased, places, buildings, and products is intended or should be inferred. This production is property of Manor Entertainment, LLC. No portion of this production may be reproduced or used by any means without the proper written consent of Manor Entertainment, LLC. This production is protected under the copyright laws of the United States and other countries throughout the world. Country of first publication, United States of America. Any unauthorized exhibition, distribution, or copying of this production, or any part thereof, may result in civil liability and criminal prosecution. Copyright 2019, Manor Entertainment, LLC. Manor.